Hello, everyone. Welcome to Drumfills Kafé. My name is Denis, and welcome to another episode of this 11th season. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. As usual, I will invite you to go check out the social media pages of Drumfills Kafé. That is the TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram pages. To go do a little bit of a like and a subscription to those pages, please. Also, I will ask you to go check out the main webpage, drumfillscafe.com. in order to know about all the past seasons, all the editorials, all the past interviews, all the stuff that we've been doing for almost 5 years now. Go check it out, drumfillscafe.com. Sorry. So my guest tonight has been in the music business for more than 50 years. Congratulations. Amazing. He's a rare performer who can truly say that he's both a drummer and percussionist. He has played or recorded with the likes of Santana, Lindsey Buckingham, Steve Winwood, Robbie Robertson, Sergio Mendes, and so many more. He's currently the drummer for the band Chicago since 2018, and he was the percussionist prior to that from 2012. Please welcome the incredible Walfredo Reyes Jr.
Hello.
Hello, Wally. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, and I'm glad to be here talking gear, drums, life, pursuit of happiness.
everything in between. No politics.
Please, it's overwhelming, especially right now with all the fires in LA and all that.
Yeah.
Friends lost their house, drummers, all the studio, the whole thing. So yeah, that's where when I'm not here before and after, I'm dealing with that right now. Luckily, our tour manager lost his house, Steve Brombach, but I have 7 GoFundMe going. Catastrophe, my daughter split town just to breathe, and
oh wow,
sister-in-law and kids. So it's just like a real nothing is unprecedented, so music really heals,
For sure. And I'm in Canada, but we're definitely following what's happening in LA. And it is incredible, devastating, all that stuff. And yeah, you want to go help, but at the same time, you just be a nuisance, basically,
Oh,
but, yeah.
If you do what you can from long distance.
Yeah.
Like right now, if I was in LA, it would be a different story. But
yeah.
But anyways, here we are.
Here we are. I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad that we can talk. We can spend the next hour together. So, Walfredo, or Wally for the intimate people. So, how are you? So, you're located where? Where's your studio, actually?
Well, right now I'm in my little studio. It's actually like a bedroom because I live in Newport, Kentucky, which is across the river from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Okay.
So you basically can walk, the Purple People Bridge. You can just walk, and you're in Newport, Kentucky. And I live in a historic East Row neighborhood from the 1800s. So my house is from 1886.
Wow, nice.
So the top edition, so I have 2 drum sets, the DWE on that side.
Yeah.
And I have my little recording drum set where I do percussion tracks, drum tracks. In fact, I just recorded 1 track for Chicago next. I cannot say for what it's going to be, but hey, can you record drums on this? Bum, 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 bum. Send the files. And that's what has become the norm since the pandemic.
Yeah, no, for sure. So not to give a scoop, so there's a new material coming out.
Not much, because, Chicago, just like I noticed with Santana and Lindsey Buckingham and Steve Winwood, unless you have like an album that is like, like the Smooth record with Santana, obviously was a lot of collaborations with Clive Davis and a lot of bands. And that was a hit, new record. Chicago had one of those rebirth in the 80s with the ballads of David Foster. But usually I noticed that people come to our audiences. I'm talking about Steve Winwood, Santana, Robbie. They want to hear the hits, the soundtrack of their lives. So with Chicago, we have 2 hours of hits. If we include a new song, it's like, oh, that's really cool. Then you do like, you're my inspiration, wow, or 25 Days to 4, or Beginnings, yeah. And then here's one from our new album. Okay. And so that happens a lot, Chicago has enough music already recorded, even the stuff from the first album, what they call the B cuts and whatever, that we don't do on the show, that I really love, Southern California Purple and all that stuff. So we did all that stuff recently on a show called Chicago 55 with a lot of guests artists.
Okay.
So we did a lot of stuff that we don't do on our regular shows on that show. So it's on DVD, so you can stream it. Chicago 55 with friends. And so that's the thing,
Well, yeah, I was going to say we're in that sort of era of people wanted to relive sort of specific moments in their lives, live. And I admit I'm guilty. I'm a kid from the 80s. The Inspiration was a huge song that I heard when I was a kid. So that's where I know the band from. And so yeah, I understand that. But it's always interesting to know that at least there's some new materials coming out.
Yeah.
So that must be interesting, especially for you guys who playing sort of, you say, playing the hits constantly. It must be interesting to do something creative, if you will.
Yeah, we actually attempted it in 2017, 18. I did it on percussion, and then I did it on drums on 2018. The Chicago 2 in its entirety.
Really?
And believe it or not, the majority of the people loved it, but there was a huge part that were saying, why are you doing all these new songs? They're not commercial. This is new songs. They're from Chicago too in the early 70s.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that people hear only the hits, bypass the rest. So Chicago 2 had amazing songs like In the Country, so it was just a work. Those 2 albums were part of my life when I was in the 8th grade, 9th grade. I was in the 8th grade in Puerto Rico. Then we moved to Las Vegas, 1969.
Okay.
And so Chicago 2 and Chicago 1 was like, and Chicago 3 was part of my soundtrack of my life. So playing those tunes were amazing. So when people ask me, is that some of your favorites? I go, well, no, because then later on I lived more life. And in the 80s, Chicago 17, Chicago 16, then they had Hard Habit to Break, Inspiration. And those were songs in the soundtrack of my life while I had kids and was married.
I see. Yeah. I see.
So it's a different point of my life,
Okay. Well, that's
all the songs. And
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but yes, I mean, I will admit that I don't know that part of the catalog. Like I say, I know the part that's early 80s sort of thing, but I know they go back. I mean, Chicago's been like what, 67 they started, so it's been a long run for them. So congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But you just touched on something. I'm curious you said, from Havana moving to the States. For you, when it started, was it all the Cuban music, the Latin music, or was it the pop and rock that got you excited in music?
Well, just because I was in Havana and until 5, my dad was a drummer, and my grandparents were musicians, uncles.
Yeah.
But they were not just doing Latin music.
Okay.
I mean, my dad was the drummer, and my grandfather was the band leader of the Casino Parisien in the National Hotel in Havana.
Okay.
Eartha Kitt opened. My dad worked with Josephine Baker. He worked with a lot of American, Nat King Cole, all the American artists that used to go over there. They play for them, plus Latin artists or ballad guys or La Lupe, and many artists that are not known here. So my dad, was a totally all-around player, jazz player. He was raised in New York City from 10 to 18. So he got the gig when Nat King Cole and Sinatra needed my dad could do it. If La Lupe and Pedro Vargas needed Mexican boleros, he'd do it. So with that in mind, when he got the same gig in Puerto Rico, at the Hotel San Juan for the Temptations, everybody, Paul Anka, Diana Ross, and Latin international artists. So that's when I started playing drums. But in my house, my mom played a lot of Latin music. My dad loved jazz. So all the big band albums, quartets, Miles Davis, Charles Lloyd, Mel Lewis and Thad Jones, big band, Louis, big band, Buddy Rich, big band, and on and on and on. So I was listening to all of that. But on the radio, I had the Beatles, the Grassroots, the Rolling Stones, Elvis, Stevie Wonder at the beginning in the 1960s. And so that was my music that wanted me. I wanted to play drums as a vehicle to create music with these bands. My interest, that was my interest. How can I play with these guys? Well, I use drums to keep the groove. So
Right.
I was never like, I wanted to be a star or a drum soloist or play amazing drum solos. And like, that was not my thing. My in was the grooves and the spirit of rock and roll. The Guess Who, I remember, Young Bloods, so and on and on and on, Cream. And then, once I started studying drums seriously, I was always playing percussion.
Okay.
In the beach, in the parties, all that kind of stuff in Puerto Rico. And then we moved to Las Vegas. While I was studying drums, I joined a lot of bands on percussion. Like rock and roll bands that like Rare Earth and El Chicano, Santana kind of bands, and they needed percussion. So I was playing in the band's percussion, and then I started also playing in some bands on drums through high school and listening to, Led Zeppelin and Humble Pie. And then I started getting into jazz and fusion. Then Chameleon came in, Herbie Hancock.
Yes, great record, yes.
Korea.
Yeah.
The first album with Ayrto. And then I started really comprehending, at that time, a great musician from Peru that was living in Puerto Rico, moved to Vegas, Alex Acuna. So Alex turned me on a lot to Elvin Jones, just like my dad, was turning me on to different players. But I got into Elvin Jones and Rashid Ali and Coltrane and Tony Williams and Roy Haynes and all the jazz drummers that were Max Roach. And then, of course, the big band drummers. And there was many in Las Vegas in those days. So, what I wanted to do is, no matter what the style of music is, I cut it successfully. So to study the tempos of the songs, and this is my motto: tempos, styles, and grooves. Tempos, know your tempos. When you get a song, okay, the drummer, you cannot be like this, And so know your tempos, know the style. Is it a shuffle? Is it a Latin bossa nova? Is it a samba? Is it a Motown? Is it a halftime Bernard Purdy shuffle? Is it a Chicago shuffle? Is it a swing? Is it a walk instead of a swing? So all that matters in what you're going to do with that music. And then grooves, create something from what you're hearing that is action reaction that can make it work. Sometimes from the record, there's more musicians. So now you're going to do it with a quartet. You can necessarily don't have to do exactly what was done on the record, because that was a different situation.
Yeah.
So now you have to create that successfully with the ingredients that you have. And so that's tempos, styles, and grooves that feel good to your situation.
So it's being able to recognize it, being able to play it, and to keep a cohesion with the band, basically, as you're doing it, basically, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Right. It happens all the time. I mean, people, I get like, of course, I'm not going to concentrate on hate and critics, but we all get it. I mean, I got it from when I was with Santana. That's not what Michael Shreve played.
Oh God,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
with Traffic. That's not what Jim Gordon played on Los
yeah,
High Hill Boys. And with Chicago, that's not what Danny Seraphin played. Well, Danny Seraphin, Michael Shreve, and Jim Gordon don't pay my check. So when I go to work with Chicago, say we do beginnings a little faster, that
mm,
alters already things. And then Robert Lamb tells me, yeah, I don't like not that many fills. Like, let's try to do more like just straight ahead groove, even though that was not like the original. So what do? No, I'm gonna play it like Danny. The hell with you. I am gonna quit. No,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you are a professional musician. You are here to help your situation. So Robert, what do you want? What can I do to make it happen? And that's what I do with every situation that I do. Like if I'm going to record right here something for you, I ask you, what do you need? What's your vision? It's not about me, it's about you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's hard. I've learned through this podcast. I've learned that valuable lesson that, oh, I want to show what I can do, and I want to, da da da, and the ego's there, and and you're pumping your chest, and here we go, and you're like, yeah, but that's not what the song needs, basically.
Right.
So yeah, I see what you mean, and to be able to be more humble and just look, what do you want? I'll try to do it for you, basically, and that's a valuable lesson. It's good that you remind me, or us, I should say, everybody, about that. Yeah, interesting.
Well, I don't want to sound cocky or anything, but because believe me, I had my crazy shares in life, 3 divorces. I mean, the third one was not a divorce, but basically 2 divorces. This is my third marriage.
Okay.
I went bankrupt on my first divorce. I've been way in the bottom, but always because of that, I've been working steadily. I
Mm.
lost houses, I bought houses. I
Mm.
lost houses, I bought houses. Now I live in a beautiful 1886 home in the historic district. So here I am. So the point is, this drum set and the percussion right there, following this philosophy, I've been able to work with, from you name it, ethnically, international
Yeah.
artists, Jimmy Barnes, Australia, Johnny Holiday, one of the biggest artists in France.
Nice. Yeah.
2000, when I arrived in LA, I was doing Mexican gigs, Persian gigs, recordings, Latin salsa gigs until 4 a.m. on percussion, timbales, whatever. Work with Celia Cruz, work with Gloria Estefan. Know the Latin, know the international grooves, know all your African grooves, all
Mm.
American, Motown, Stax, the rhythm section, Muscle Shoals, the New York. Follow the people that are making different music, and you'll survive whether you are with a famous band or not. Like I am with a famous band right now, but I didn't start that band.
Mm-hmm.
But I can play with Chicago. And if right now I get a call from like I did with Steve Winwood, yeah, I need a guy that plays percussion. Well, Jim Capaldi plays drums, and then you switch, you play drums, and he plays percussion or goes to the front. So that's what you need a versatile drummer, percussionist that can not just bang and fake percussion like anything. No, you got to be serious on each instrument, whether it's a shaker. One of the hardest tunes that I done on the shaker was a tune by Lindsey Buckingham. Right now the title escapes me, but it's like a 6/8 thing, and the shaker will go.
We'll do the double. Yeah.
But his thing was, so that shaker had to be glued
To that.
It cannot be,
Yeah.
it's got to be like this for like
Yeah.
5 minutes,
Yeah.
complete perfection for it to sound great. So when people say, "Oh, shaker," no, there's an art to it. You got to practice.
No. It's just you gotta, if there's an accent somewhere, you gotta hear that accent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
shaker, pandero,
Yeah.
berimbau, congas, bongos, djembe, drum set. I mean, that's, so when I sometimes after a Chicago tour, I come back home, this drum set, all my percussion are going, you haven't played me in a long time.
Come on, let's get back in shape. Let's get back in shape. Yeah.
It's like, hi, so like sometimes I go like, man, this feels good. Oh my God. But you can't do it all the time, so you have to. But that's being a professional musician. If you want to dedicate yourself to, I always tell my students, what is it that you want to do? If you want to get in a band and go for it, do or die, good luck. Don't quit your day job just in case, But if your day job is music, then you're fine. So that's what I did. I actually wanted to work. And then I had some bands that were auditioning. We didn't get a big record deal. I had some bands that was going to be our stuff, but it just didn't, the other stuff called more.
Yeah, no, for sure.
A big tour and that kind of thing. But I always play around town, always little clubs, whatever. But the thing is, some of the, I see a lot of students like playing with tracks, that another drummer created the groove. And so you actually, like the other day I saw something, Billie Jean, so, the reason that was such a big hit is Undugu, Leon Chancellor, played a groove there that was just basically a 1-bar groove, just like he did on other hits. Send Me Forget Me Nots with Patrice Rushen. And it's just like groove, and people dance, and it was successful. Now you get that track, you eliminate Undugu and spray all over using the track, so you wouldn't last 1 minute with Michael Jackson if you did.
No, I know, and I mean, you hit so many points. I want to stop you there because you've hit so many points that I want to go back to. But number one, yes, especially in the 70s, guys would do takes. So sometimes they don't even remember what was it, what solo, what fill they played, sort of thing. And today it is like, oh, you got to play it to the nth degree of the precision of the hair of, But back then it wasn't like that, like you say, for Denis, Seraphine, and everybody else. And I for instance, Ian Pace, who was one of my favorites, when he played "Burn," that famous drum track, he doesn't remember what he played, for instance, or
it was action. Yeah,
it was just a take, So I get that. And coming back to what you're saying now, where basically just people spray all over diddles and 5 against 11s and whatever against something like Billie Jean. Yeah, it's something I find symptomatic of, sort of everybody's trying to do that, but everybody's forgetting about, well, just a good solid groove sort of thing. And yeah, there's a dichotomy there that's happening, especially these days. And like you say, for you, after 50 plus years, this just doing that solidly is, way more important.
Well, it's a different era today. We have access now to, we didn't have it back then. I mean, I didn't even know what a recording studio looked like when I was already a player. And to go into the studio will make you nervous because even the air smells different when you when you lock up yourself in a booth and smell like carpet and hardwood floors, and then the microphones are all over your set. Wait a second, but the crazy thing is today you can put a camera and have a YouTube channel, and there's a lot of young drummers that are making money with social media. So their gig is to blasting and bunching amazing stuff. Some of them have original music or pads or loops. Sometimes I prefer that. So basically, my motto personally is I use the drums to make music. So I want to make music, and if I have a song, I want to create a good groove to that song. I don't use music to create drumming.
I see what
unless
you mean. I see what you mean.
unless I want to feature my drums and I want to. So sometimes you have an idea of a song that everybody kind of knows, and it's kind of fun. I personally do that here. I don't advertise it much. Like, hey, you know that song, Alfie? What's it all about? Alfie. I'm going to play a drum solo on top of that at that time. Okay, so you're using music to feature or show off your rudiments. That's really great if you do it here to demonstrate the drumming and put it on a YouTube channel. If I was going to audition for a band that does dance music or a gig that pays your rent for that weekend, and I'm not going to do that. I'm going to play brushes and create a groove that the song sounds great, not me. So that's something that is controversial to some people. But all I can say is like, I'm not a modern drummer winner. I don't even join the competition. I believe that everybody has a very unique sound and art. Music is not competition. What's the best? Who's the best? He won number one. That's for the Olympics. And
Yeah.
drumming, we all have originality, hopefully, character. There's no comparison. I never, ever compared Ginger Baker, Keith Moon, John Bonham, Charlie Watts, the English rock drummers. Don't compare them. They each had a sound. They each are unique. They each were unique. So that's the beauty that I like to see. So with that being said, I always, being a professional musician, my first question is, what do you need? What are you looking for? Goes, oh, over here, can you do a drum solo? You got it. Well, I want this really simple, almost like nothing except kick and snare. Okay. Oh, I want this really complex. Can you do like a 16 notes and do this and do that? Okay. So I try to create something that makes sense from what they're telling me they want and they're looking for. And that's why I'm blessed when people say, you're so lucky, you live in the right time and your family. No, I did the work, and I'm still practicing and studying. But because of my philosophy, working in the music business is not necessarily working in the drumming business. So drum festivals, drum clinics, drum masterclass, drums, all kinds of, that's the drum world, drum clinics. When somebody calls you to play a groove, sometimes it doesn't even have to be drum set. It can be cajon. It can be your kitchen pans, whatever it is, to create something great and groovy for your song. That's the music business.
I see. Yeah.
You know,
That is an interesting difference there. That's an interesting point. But it's obviously worked because it's impossible to list all the artists you've worked in the past 50 years. But I do want to touch on a few, if that's possible, because we can philosophize for the next hour about that. But very good points, Walfredo. Very nice. Of course, we got to talk about Santana. You played with Santana from '89 to '93. There's a show
and then I came back a few times.
Oh, okay, cool.
Dennis Chambers, he couldn't do a tour, and then I play some other time, with him, and I still keep in touch.
Nice. Well, the first question is, how did that gig come about, and what was that experience like to play with Santana?
Well, it's really a long version that it'll take a long time. This is really crazy, but might as well say it. So in 1972, we had moved to Las Vegas from Puerto Rico. So my dad is an innovator, timbale player, drummer, percussionist. He's always done that all his life. So when we arrived in Vegas, he had a great job. House band drummer of the Desert Inn Hotel. In those days, the union was strong. They paid full medical for the whole family.
Really? Wow.
Doubles. If you're going to play drums, then you play tambourine or cowbell. That's an extra double. They paid for all of that. You had vacation pay. So my dad had a great gig. So in 1972, Chepito left Santana. And Armando Peraza was playing with Santana, and he was a good friend of my father and my grandfather from Cuba. And so I was at the house when I got a phone call that it was Armando Peraza saying, "What's your dad?" He goes, "Well, he's gone. He's out." Well, give him a message to call me because Santana's looking for a timbale player. I recommended him to fly here to San Francisco. And I was like, Everybody's Everything was a hit at that time.
Okay.
Tower of Power Horns. It was a great song. The tune Everybody's Everything. It's kind of like a Nicaraguan Chepito Arias merengue kind of thing. And so when my dad came with my mom and the other 4 kids, or little, I said, "Dad, Armando Peraza from Santana called from San Francisco. You can go out there and audition for Santana." And I was excited because I was a drum student. I knew Santana music. That was my era. And my stepmom, which was my mom that raised me since I was little, said, "And leave me in Las Vegas with 5 kids? Are you kidding me?" And that was the end of it.
Oh.
So eventually, Orestes Vilato was recommended, and then he flew from New York to San Francisco, and the rest is history for 17 years. Yeah. So go forward. In 1984, I was playing with Tania Maria. I was playing timbales. He's a Brazilian pianist. John Pena, Ron Powell, and Frankie Colon, percussion. And I was in LA when there was the word for the Z-Bop album. That I had the gig with Santana, and I was going, "What? Nobody called me." And then I bump into Orestes and Armando on a drum shop. He goes, "Yeah, have they called you yet?" He goes, "No." Well, huh? So Graham Lear was a great drummer. I was playing with Santana, and I loved Graham, and still do. So, that was like a big thing that everybody was recommending me and congratulating me for getting the Santana gig that I never got called. So that was 1984. 1989, David Lindley and El Rayo X, I was playing timbales and drums set. We opened for Santana and the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
So that's when Carlos came on the stage. I met him and saw the David Lindley show. And then they sounded me to join the band. But I couldn't in 1988 because I had a contract. We were going to go into the studio with David Lindley.
Okay.
And I believe in karma. I will not be a traitor and messed up the whole recording for the rest of my bandmates for me to get a better money gig. So that's something that if you actually, do I lose something? Yeah, but I don't want to see, the gold touch of Judas. It doesn't work for me. So I said no. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm like, honor. I mean, I saw the concert. You guys sounded great. I don't even know. Why do you want me to? Well, anyways, moving forward, 88, I then joined a tour in Australia because David Lindley would record it. I did what I had to do. The album didn't sell big. I did a tour in Australia. And when I arrived in 1989, first phone call I get, it was Alfonso Johnson. He goes, "Man, Carlos mentioned your name. We're auditioning drummers here in San Francisco." So then I called the manager, learned these 5 songs. I forgot what they were, different styles. And I flew to Hun Sound, and we didn't do those 5 songs. Carlos just played, and we jammed, some blues, and we jammed some swing, we jammed some rock, and then the percussionist started playing, and I joined in, and this and that, and I got the gig with Santana.
Nice.
And then we went on tour immediately, 89. My son was born in 89, my first son. And 89 through 93. Then in 94, I got called for Steve Winwood to the Traffic tour. And so with Santana, he always, it's almost like Weather Report. He always tries to do new drummers, new.
A bit of the Miles Davis thing where every 4 or 5 years is something new that happens. And
right. He follows like that thing. And then some players come and go. and all of a sudden, so with Steve Winwood, when I got called, it was to play percussion and drums. So I said, yeah. We did 11 stadium shows with the Grateful Dead, and did Woodstock '94, and so that's how I got the gig with Santana.
Well, you seem to be having a lot of fun, because I was looking at your YouTube channel, and of course, there's the classic Soul Sacrifice that you're doing a drum solo in, and I was wondering where it was, and it's in South America, and the people are just
Chile,
Chile, just going nuts, and just
not to go into politics, but we didn't know that when we arrived in Santiago, Chile, the dictator, the right-wing dictator,
what's his name?
Pinochet.
Yeah, Pinochet. Yeah,
was gone, and people were out in the streets, and it was a crazy situation. We just went from the airplane to the hotel, which, by the way, I have stories to tell. Guns N' Roses was under house arrest, so I met Slash there by the pool, and then we had lunch together, because apparently in the concert somebody threw something. The audience was like this. And when they did Guns N' Roses, they probably didn't realize what was going on, and somebody threw something to Axl Rose, and he dove into the crowd and started to fight, and some girl got trampled and hurt, so they house arrested him.
Doesn't sound like Guns N' Roses at all.
Right. So our audience was like lit. So, I was playing the drum solo, and I did something that sometimes I do in other solos at that time. And I went boom, 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 and 150,000 people went, pa, pa.
Yeah, I saw.
I went, whoa, okay. Or something like that, or dun 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 dun. And it was a roar.
Yeah.
The light guy, started going
with them. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a really cool thing that happened, that it was not planned. It's just, it's the experience of and this is a good point, actually. When I sit on the drum set, I remember something that I think Steve Gadd told me, or told in a video or something. Drummers, remember, when you sit on your drums, no matter how much sacrifice, study, and experience you got on the drum set, remember, there is life past the cymbals. Remember that it's not just about this real estate, which is a lot to cover sometimes.
Yeah.
You got to have the ears and your eyes, hopefully, and better if you have both. Not only listening, but in the stage. If somebody falls, or you're playing, and the singer is about to come to the microphone and sing, then, okay, what do you have to say? But I'm also aware of the audience. And even though I should not let the audience affect me, but I'm aware of the audience. So when I'm playing with my own band, the set list matters for the energy.
No, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I always, as much as I'm listening to the band, I'm listening to the audience reaction. If it's the energy's up, like, yeah, that's it.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I had the chance to meet him once. He came to Montreal, because in Montreal we have a thing called COSA, where basically it's yeah, exactly. He goes to Cuba and does these.
I played a lot of his drum camps.
Yeah. So hello from both of us, and Steve was there, and he was doing the solo stuff, and I asked him a couple of questions, and he said one thing, and it's very similar to what you say. And he says, you know what, when you're doing something solo, never lose the audience.
Yeah.
Like don't go to the part where it's just you that understands it. Keep it where people can just know where you are with them, sort of keep them with you, basically.
And that's a good point, because that's why with Chicago, there's videos of the drum solo that we do with Ray Islas on my drum cam. We want to make it an entertaining drum solo, not a drum solo for drummers only. So, I don't have to prove to a bunch of non-drummers that I can play drums and I'm fast on my feet. That's not the intent. If they're having fun on my drum solo, some people walk away at a drum solo.
Yes, they go get the beer and the T-shirt and whatever.
Yeah. I remember I had a date one time. He goes, "Oh no, they're not gonna be a drum." Well, if they're do a drum solo, that's when we go to the bathroom to powder. So basically, really, so that was a challenge. You do that. So how about in my drum solo? If I keep you on the dance floor and I move you and make you dance, that's what I wanna. I don't want you to go after my drum solo. Man, are you using the Moeller grip? Are those DW 9000? I wanna hear. Man, I dance my ass off. So that's what I want to hear. So we create an entertaining drum solo. Now we've done that on a drum clinic that is all a drummer percussion audience. We do a different thing. We actually give them a little more
Spice,
rhythm, grooves, and a more intense drumming experience.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that, because that was one of my questions is how did you decide for the drum solo in Chicago? But you basically answered it for me. So the main theme is making them dance, entertainment, interaction, basically, between you, the percussionist, and the crowd.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like I'm going to do a drum solo for 5 minutes. Hope you're having a good time. We'll be back soon. No, it's like I want you to join us in this experience.
Very nice. Very nice. So yeah, I mean, we can go left to right to Chicago. One artist I did want to talk about, because yes, there's Stephen Wood. There's so many we could talk about. It's incredible. But one who's Canadian, Robbie Robertson, who was part, of course, of the band. You had the pleasure to play with him in '95, I think, around '95.
Yeah, '95, and then again 2002. And I did a few sessions for him. One of them was for Robbie Robertson, Greatest Legends or something like that.
Okay.
It's a black and white album that a lot of legendary musicians have. Classic Robbie Robertson. And there's a few tunes there that I recorded over on his songs. And so working with Robbie, it was really great. I had another guy that I worked in the past, Andreas Vollenweider, which is a harpist. And it was almost no music as we know it, charts, drum parts.
Really?
So what they do is like, they're all about vision, so Andrea Vollenweider was a movie music writer. And Robbie, I think in his mind, wanted that. In fact, that's why he worked for DreamWorks.
Okay.
He was what do you call it? A music, he did a lot of projects for DreamWorks. You see on the movie Robbie Robertson, because he saw a film like Mickey Hart actually does. He said this: sometimes when I see visions, I hear music, and sometimes when I hear music, I see visions.
Okay.
So it goes together. So Robbie, I got hired. I learned the music, and when we arrived, it was only 4 of us trying to work it out. That everything to him was, he will come to me on the drums and say, imagine that we start and the horses are going and they stop right in the middle of this, mountain, and there's a canyon, and then you fly. And that's when the mallets, the swish, and then it goes into the slower part. Once you dip into the river, inside the river, that's when the music starts. So he would tell me something like that. It was not about tom. It was like, okay,
more cinematic.
Yeah, cinematic. So what he wanted me is, when I created my drumming part, I had this image of this film in my head. And for that tour, what I did, since it was Native American drums, I needed a beat. So yeah.
Well, yeah. If you don't mind, I'm going to share this, and I hope I'm doing this correctly. We're going to use the interwebs to share something here,
Oh, okay.
because I find this very interesting. So that is you, of course.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. And you've got, of course, the regular tom floors, but you've got these other drums in the front that are very
Right.
interesting.
So those are the buffalo drum that Remo created. They're tunable. So you don't have to tune them, because the Native American real drums, you have to put heat. And when in London, that was in London, the weather and the humidity, and you're gonna have a fire. You cannot do a fire. You cannot have a lamp.
Wow.
So Remo created these drums, and so I had jingles in my hand, as you can see. I had stuff on my foot.
Yeah.
Created, like things that I actually have them here. I don't have them here right now, but I put all this stuff on my hi-hat sometimes, and creates a more tribal. So, to create, for example, in the hi-hat, if you have this and you're playing, and then you go with your kick and snare. So now you got a drum beat and percussion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what Robbie loved. And we had a really great time. We went to Italy, went to Europe. We opened up for Eric Clapton somewhere in Rome. So we took this tour with Rita Coolidge, the quartet, and a troupe of Native American ballet dancers,
Okay.
all the way from Saskatchewan, Canada.
Saskatchewan, yes.
The native people from that region,
Mm-hmm.
different parts of Canada, different parts of America. We had Cherokee, we had Utah, different tribes, not only with different outfits, but with different concept of. It's funny because I learn a lot about, when they do the hoop dance.
Mm-hmm.
You almost have to learn the hoop dance, because it gets really intense, and then goes, and it goes back down to like
That's
really
very
wild.
small.
And if you don't know what to do, then don't do it until you learn. So that's why even in that culture, that was an experience that I learned a lot from the Native American drumming and different drums. And, I try to do that everywhere I go in the world.
Very nice. Yeah. And that's something you don't see often. And I was fascinated by this video. I watched it a couple of times. And what you do is, it's very simple, but it's very effective.
Yeah.
And you do sometimes go down those couple of drums, and they sound really amazing. So yeah, it must have been an interesting experience.
I love Robbie. He recommended me for different gigs and different sessions in LA. I got called to do this. I forgot. This guy had a hit already, but he wanted me to do another song. And I go, how did you hear of me? He goes, like, Robbie gave me your number. So I love Robbie for what he was, a visionary. And he was always really gentle and trying to explain things. And he was not like abrasive or insulting. Mm-hmm. Like some artists get nervous. They freak out.
Mm.
Sometimes they become like, I don't like to work for anybody that needs to apologize on the second day.
Okay.
Like Tanya Maria was funny because in a different situation, sometimes at the beginning, I didn't know how to do certain things, and I misunderstood. And then I had to go back and to her and say, I'm so sorry. I apologize. I didn't understand this and that. And she goes, okay, so now you do. So now don't apologize. Just do it.
just do it. Yeah.
You do the right thing. Don't apologize. When you do the right thing, you don't have to apologize.
Right.
So I try to actually do that. It's like, nah, I'm not going to go half-ass and apologize. I'd rather do all the way or nothing and have praises and compliments instead of like apologies, you know.
Hmm.
So
We could go on with your career, but I know I have to go talk shop. We have to talk shop because, of course, like we said at the start of the podcast, percussionist and drummer. You play both sometimes, And then in Chicago, there's a part in the solo, and I invite people to go check it out, where you switch, where you go to the percussion, and of course, the percussionist comes to the drums, and vice versa. It's really, really entertaining, really nice.
thank you.
But we have to talk shop a bit because I'm sure people will want to know. So this is your tour kit with Chicago, right there. So talk about a bit what you have and what you use and because I know you do this, and that's something else I want to talk about. Is that you call it split brain playing, where basically your left hand will do something on percussion while your right hand is doing something. Doing something more steady, more rock beats, and talk about that concept as well. So let's talk shop first and present to me. Yeah.
Well,
So
it's a DW Mappa Burl kit that I have it refinished like ocean land. My wife is a scuba diver, and so I wanted to have like if you're in an aerial view of the Bahamas or Cuba, Puerto Rico. So that's the color theme. You don't see it there, obviously. So I have emperor heads on all the tom toms. Emperor X on the snare to the left is my ballad snare.
okay, so a bigger snare.
Yeah, well, not that much bigger, but tuned really low,
Okay.
thicker head, and some more mufflings, and a big snare in the bottom, like a 42 strand or something like that. And then going into from the left to the right, from my left, I have an octopad with timpanis and some percussion. I have Ray Islas playing percussion with an octopad, so I don't have to play a lot of percussion because we have a percussionist.
Percussionist, yeah.
If we didn't have a percussionist, my set would be bigger. I would have to add some other percussion or use more of the octopad to make up for the difference, but not in this case. So I have the octopad, then I have on the cymbal department, I got a splash, and I can't remember, but they're like 10-inch, something like that. Splashes like the HHX. I love the HHX, and then the hi-hats are metal AAX, and they're very crispy. They don't get air. That's why I love them. They have a thick bottom, and they're good for all styles of music. You can actually create a solo just with that hi-hat, the bell. It's very colorful.
Okay.
And then on my left crash, I have a 19-inch Evolution. HX Evolution 19-inch. It got a splash. I think it's oh my god, like if it's not an Evolution, it's similar, a Legend,
something like that.
and then the Ozone splash, and then you cannot see it, but my right symbol is the Rock Ride 8AA. I think it's AA or AAX. I'm not sure, but it's called the Rock Ride.
Okay.
Great bell. You can hear because with a 10-piece band,
yeah,
and the volume, I love hand hammer cymbals. I have them when I play around town or recording, but they wash too much, and you don't hear the ping. So I have the Rock Ride, and then I have another Evolution. You're not seeing it in the picture
at the bottom, yeah, right here.
Yeah, right next door to the right is a 18-inch Evolution, the same as the left. And then I got a Holy China 19-inch that is really loud. And I use, obviously, it can be really soft if you play with mallets, but it really does like an incredible effect. And so for the sizes of the drums, the two snares are 14 by 16 and a half, 6.5.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah,
same size. Okay.
The one on the left is the one that came with the kit. It's a Mappa Burl.
Okay.
My main snare is a DW. What's the the high end, not the concept, but
I'm
the
sorry. Oh, it's yeah. I don't know them enough.
collectors. I'm sorry, collectors.
Collector, right?
Yeah, the DW collectors, black nickel over brass.
Oh, so yeah, a good sound, a good fat snare for the big shows.
Yeah, it's versatile. Have a tune higher, and it's kind of like reminds me a little bit like the Black Beauty. It's like a DW Black Beauty. You can tune it low, high, like a timbale. You can do a lot of
Mm,
things.
mm,
Then on the tom toms, I have a 10-inch, a 12-inch, 13, because the 14 doesn't fit on the tom tom.
right
Too big.
on the top. Yeah.
Yeah, and then 16-inch. I usually use an 18-inch, but I wasn't using it a lot with Chicago. And when we do our solo, as you can see, Ray has to come and play
Yeah.
drums
In the
and
back.
then leave, and the 18-inch tom-tom was blocking him.
Okay, right there. Yeah.
Since I was not using the 18-inch a lot, my drum tech was going, Wally, your 18-inch doesn't need to be changed. You had hardly hit it. I went, take it out, which is a drum lesson right there. Use the drum set that the music needs. If you have 4 other drum sets just sitting there and you're not using it, the drum tech is just for show or just to set it up every night and you're not hitting it. So I find that, I try to incorporate what I need, the tools that I need to create the music. Sometimes with a jazz trio, it's a 3-piece kit. For recording, I can do a lot with 3 tom-toms. Sometimes I add more. But, the music dictates my setup. Instead of me arriving with the setup and then I only use hi-hat, snare, and kick. You know what I'm saying? Which it happens with recording sessions like in LA. You set up and you don't even know the music. But if I hear the music, I kind of know what I'm going to do.
Cool. Thanks for going through the gear. So yeah, but and then an excellent point. Really, if I'm doing a little cafe gig, I'm not going to go come in with my double bass drums and my
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean,
I
God
took my
bless you
space.
if you want to do that.
Yeah, I took my space. You guys have this left on the cafe. There you go. Enjoy. For instance, yeah.
Yes.
Question I'm sure you get asked, but I mean, you're the perfect candidate for this question. But I'm a drummer. I'm playing with a percussionist. What do I do? What do I not do? Playing with a percussionist and vice versa. What is your tips and recommendations about drummer, percussionist playing together?
Well, it starts with percussion. So if you go back in history, you got to learn your history. I mean, if a guitar player doesn't know where the guitar started, you don't know the history of your instrument, it's like you got to do a little more homework. And so if you have to go back to the history of percussion, there was no drum set until 1920. It was still
20s, yeah, the jazz.
being developed. And the pedal came in and then the hi-hat came in last. So it was a world music. It was a percussion ensemble. So it was a symphonic bass drum, military snare drum, Turkish and Chinese cymbals, which are still the main thing, right? Turkish, that's where they came from, and Chinese cymbals. I mean, even though they're made in America, it can be made in Switzerland. It came from the Turkish culture, right? So so it was a mixture, and then you have Chinese temple blocks, you had timpani, you had Chinese drums, tom-toms. That was the first original drums. Is when you look in the black and white photos in the net, 1919, something like that. New Orleans, So the history of the drum set is an evolution. And so when you have like a drum set and now you are doing, for example, Latin rhythms that are based on percussion, that you have to recreate. So, sometimes what I do on my drum set, even right here, this is my recording drum set. When I look at my drum set, I see a percussion ensemble. The bells of the cymbals can be triangles. The snare drum can be a timbale. The floor tom-tom can be a African junjun, a surdo. You have like conga drum patterns. So a lot of the patterns that have developed when you play, for example, you play Yeah, I'm using brushes right now. But if you play something like a that's a conga beat, a conga drum beat, and that was a timbale and a bell beat. But since I don't have congas and a bell, then you imitate the percussion sounds
Right.
on drum set. You bring them, triangles, for example. When I do triangles, like that's a hi-hat beat, but it's a triangle.
Yeah, where you're basically choking it for one beat. Yeah.
Right. So what I try to do when I'm playing drum set with another percussionist, it's like what I compare all the time with the cuisine. So we're gonna do meatballs and pasta. Okay, I'm bringing the meatballs. What are you gonna bring? So you bring the pasta. Okay, and we need the sauce. And who's gonna bring the Parmesan cheese? So those are the ingredients. So when you say, like, for example, a salsa groove,
Mhm.
and I only have drum set, well, the colors of the salsa groove are not there. So you have to emulate something and take from, or if the percussionist is playing congas, so the drum set is now is the timbale player.
I see. Yeah. So it's knowing the rhythm, number one.
Absolutely.
Knowing the rhythm, number one.
Yeah.
and then once you know the rhythm, to go, okay, he's gonna do the boom 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 while I do
Right.
or whatever it is. I'm keeping the bottom bass stuff while he's doing the top Parmesan, as you say.
Well, it's like everything, really, because if you're playing American football, you go, what's the goal? To score a goal.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm the quarterback. So, I'm the quarterback. No, I want to be quarterback. It's just not successful.
Yeah, no, exactly.
What do you need? You need receivers, people that block you, a center to pass you the ball, and some protection. That's the team. So, like, if you actually have a rhythm that has 4 ingredients or 3 ingredients, percussion can be a lot of ingredients.
Yes.
If you're actually going to do a samba, you can do it with a lot of different percussionists. But nobody has that budget anymore. So you cannot have, for like certain tunes, 5, 6 percussionists, unless you go to Brazil. And I love when I see Gilberto Gil or Jovan with a rhythm section, some horns, and 3 percussionists, and drummer. The African bands, for example, in the 80s, I went to see King Sonny Ade.
Yeah.
He had 3 rhythm guitar players. He had a steel guitar player. He had a drummer, 2 talking drums.
Okay.
2 talking drummers, a percussionist, and 2 guys that the only thing they play, one, and the other one all night long. So it's 16 people on stage. I don't know how they made money, but the thing is, right now, that doesn't happen because touring is so expensive, and gas and all the expenses. So now you either, if you have a tune, what a lot of people do, that you put on a program and you play it.
Play over it, yeah.
There comes the situation where you have to learn how to play with a click, because if all those rhythms are grooved and you have to play with something that, for example, with Lindsey Buckingham, Lindsey will come to me and say, hey, Wally, at the sound check, we're going to do this tune and I need that boom, bah, boom, bah, boom, boom. What percussion would you like? He goes, well, it'd be great to have, and on the chorus, a tambourine. Okay, let's cut it. So I will cut right there on my overheads a shaker, played, in time with the click, and then a tambourine on the chorus, and that would add a different dimension to my groove, because there was no percussionist to do that.
I see.
So you have to do what you have to do and be ready to know how to do it.
So again, you have to know the rhythm to therefore know what to play if you're the percussionist or drummer, or if you're just a drummer and you need to do everything for that band. I understand.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's better. Like, I had this conversation with Jeff Porcaro, and he told me something that was kind of funny in his own way. I love Jeff. It's like almost like a mentor, friend. He
Mm.
said, "There's two ways of playing drums: learning the legitimate rhythms and grooves, and second, play like a kind of like a groove."
Okay.
The kind of like a is what most people do. So somebody go, oh, this is kind of like a New Orleans groove.
Okay.
This is kind of like a guaguancó rumba from Cuba. This is kind of like a Brazilian samba, but it's not. This is kind of my version because I didn't want to spend the time to really learn.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's that involved. But however, and that's great because I do it a lot.
Hmm.
You have to use your creativity and to create something maybe fresh and new based on that rhythm. But what happens when you are in Cuba and you need to sit in one of those groups? You gotta learn it, or all or nothing. Don't
The
sit in and trying to fake it.
Yeah.
I mean,
The kind is not a cut it. The kind is not going to cut it.
right. So, like I need to learn legitimately as much as possible. Like right now, I've been into a lot of the Algerian. I did a tour with Khaled from Algeria in the 2007, and I got really into the Shabi and the Ganawa music. And there's a drummer that I really like, Karim Ziad, that plays these grooves that are like so off the wall, kind of like
Okay.
when I started hearing reggae and Stuart Copeland
Right,
doing.
right, right.
It's kind of like a mixture of rock and roll, reggae, which he did so well, and that's why I love the Police for doing that. Then when I heard um, Graceland by Paul Simon and
Mm.
Peter Gabriel adding all this African groove element with Manu Katché, making it his song, original song, kind of like but with authenticity also.
Mm-mm.
So, I think that Jeff Porcaro was right. I can always do it kind of like anything if it fits and it sounds great. But I would like to really dig deeper
Mm.
into jazz. What is swing? What is bebop? What is a walk? Like, for example, you listen to Quincy Jones, the original Killer Joe with Grady Tate on drums. He's
Uh,
not swinging. He's not playing Killer Joe. He's doing a walk, and a walk is straight on
ding,
the
ding,
cymbal.
ding, ding. That's it.
Ray Brown on bass. And that's a groove that is unique. So when somebody tells you, "Nah, it's too syncopated," can you just do like a walk? And there's different styles of music that the more you know, the better working chances. Because when you get called for a gig and you give it all, and the guy gets everything he asks, shit, call him again. Next time, maybe pay him more money. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah. So to summarize, because these are a lot of good points, but to summarize, it's to number one, listen to the music, to know the music, number one. And then number two, to learn the style, like more than kind of like a, and then to be able to have that confidence that when you have that occasion where it's like, can you play me this, is to be able to do it sort of on the spot. To
Right.
summarize. Yeah.
And that goes, and sometimes, original bands, when people are saying, hey, man, can you play like this band? Well, they're original music. So, like, for example, if you go like Full in the Rain,
Hmm.
uh, I had a lot of rock young students that had nothing, they have no idea on Latin music. So, the first part is like a halftime shuffle.
Yeah. And then he just switches to that samba thing at the middle. Yeah.
Well, you said it. So what is it? But a lot of people don't know that that's what it is. Oh, it's a John Bonham beat. But John Bonham was playing a samba.
Yeah.
And so, of course, didn't sound it authentic with the rest of Led Zeppelin playing. If you would have had some percussionists and a Brazilian pandeiro and a gogo bell and all that, it would have been a samba.
Mm-hmm.
It's a drum set samba. But, so for you to identify that, it tells me that you've done your homework. So that's what I try to do. I try to listen because then I can grab for myself what it is. There's an app, by the way. It's called percussiontutor.com that I recommend to all my students. And it has mostly all the percussion rhythms from Brazil, Santo Domingo, Cuba. Cuba is big because it has bata drums, folkloric, popular. Because a lot of the grooves in the whole world for they come from more complex percussion rhythms. So you take one little thing of that into a song and becomes a hit. That's from this. So, for example, like there's a popular beat right now that reggaeton.
Yeah, to
Right. So
that sort of
when you go before the reggaeton was called reggaeton,
yeah.
that it came from the bomba beat. From it came from percussion. And then you go to Martinique, Guadeloupe, which is French. They call it souk. And then you go to somewhere else and in Cuba and they go, yeah, but we have that rhythm. That's part of this. Okay, so Cuba has it and Colombia. But my African friend, Armand Sabaleco, played with Paul Simon bass.
Nice.
He says, yeah, because that's a Bantu rhythm. And it comes from the Benin, Nigeria area before they were colonized as Benin and Nigeria. So that rhythm is centuries old. So now when that traveled to the New World, it spread French Caribbean, Spanish Caribbean, South America, and all these people use it with French lyrics, Spanish lyric, Portuguese. So now they all claim it with a different name, but the root is Bantu African rhythm. So when you actually go back and the more I study like a lot of African rhythms, then you put them on the drum set. That's where the stuff, it's a fountain of knowledge and ideas and creativity.
It's that's interesting because it makes you realize there's so much more rhythm out there that we know about or have heard about, and that is maybe yet to be discovered or that we don't use enough. Basically, it's interesting.
And it takes so long to educate. For example, when I moved to LA, I'm going to go back more. When I started recording in Las Vegas in the 70s, somebody told me, hey man, you'll be playing percussion. Okay, what do you want me to play? Oh, like claves, tambourine, triangle. You have one of those things that you hit and it's like a vibra slap. Yeah. I think that's the knowledge.
Yeah.
And the kid percussion was timpani, mallets, and all that.
Yeah.
Then Santana came in, introduced congas, timbales, Osivisa, El Chicano. All these bands brought the Latin rhythms and a rare earth. So what happened is now you get calls, hey, can you bring some of those congas and bangos? The one you bang on him. Go, what? You mean a bongo and a conga drums? 1, 2, I don't know. So now congas were, but in the 90s, now you get the contractors in LA going, hey, do you have a cajon?
Yeah.
Go, wow. Okay. You've been learning the shit,
Yeah.
Bring your 3 congas, bongo. You have a djembe. Okay. And we need some agogo bells, pandeiro. And it's like, whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
So, now country music has congas and some percussion. But there's a lot of rhythms and a lot of instruments that have not made it into the mainstream yet.
Yeah.
And so that's some bands are using them, and that's up to us to actually incorporate. I see a lot of drummers now playing with different things on the hi-hat and creating different sounds, percussive sounds. That's beautiful because that's what the drum set does. You can, in the 80s, 90s, I remember the Simmons and the this and the Dynacord and the Lindstrom and the this and the that. And you have to have a rack and triggers and this and that. But you know what? All that stuff to me it's in the cemetery because I couldn't even get no money for it. And I have to get rid of it and gave it away, lost money. But you know what's still around? The vintage drum set.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, people go, this is from 1945. Whoa. Or yeah, I have a set of Simmons 5. What? No, I don't want that.
Yeah.
You know, so the vintage, you know why? Because you can create a lot of sounds with one snare drum.
Yeah.
And,
No, for sure. Yeah.
and everybody that puts their hand will create something new and fresh. The other sounds are programmed. You get one guy hitting, it's get the other guy hitting.
Yeah.
But here I can go, and then I can go, or so that's one snare, and depending on what I do, how I tune it, what sticks do I use,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and
How you hit it. Yeah.
that's art. That's an art form, you know. So
I think that concludes it because I had a million questions, but you're such a great educator. You just basically answered everything, to be quite
well,
honest.
you know, send them to me, and I can always put them. And remember, you can always go to chicagotheband.com for tour information. My website is walfredoreyesjr.com. And I try to, and then I have a Facebook and Instagram. And
You teach, I think. You teach over distance as well?
I teach at home, and I teach while I'm between Chicago tours.
Yeah.
I teach drums or percussion, whatever you want to learn, or both. And you know, it's hard to keep consecutively. So some kids that I recommend that they get a drum teacher every week or every 2 weeks.
Mhm.
I cannot do that. But you know, in one of my lessons, you're going to get a lot of homework.
There you go.
It might last you for 3 months.
There you go.
You know?
So you can reach Walfredo if you're interested in learning all these different rhythms that he's talked about today. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. And again, you know, like you can text me on Facebook or Instagram or through my website, and I'm available and reachable. You know, you don't have to go through a manager. You know, of course, I get busy like we all do.
Yeah.
When I'm on Chicago's time, I cannot do other things. But most of the time, I can teach from the road or record something here, and I can record also since we don't sound check, I go earlier, and with the monitor guy, he has a personal rig, and I gave him the track, and I can record on my drum set that you just saw on the photo. So if anybody's interested, just hit me up.
And I will vouch that he is very, very likable, very easygoing, and super easy to reach. So I'll vouch for that for sure.
Well, thank you. Well, you know, my other motto is I teach students that ask me, what's the well, 2 questions. How do you get the big gigs? And I always say, doing a million little gigs.
I was about to ask, yeah.
Eventually, you know, you can't go there without A, B, C, D. The song starts with A, B, C, not with G.
Yeah.
Right. And the other one is there's on stage and off stage. On stage, you should be best musician you can be, team player. You're there with a band to make music. Is give the songs the best songs the way they should be heard.
Yes.
And off stage, you got to be the best human being you can, because nobody wants a jerk once the show finishes.
Yeah.
So once you finish the show, remember that when you're with a band like Chicago and all that, if you treat people right in the hotel, coffee shop, the front desk, and all that, you represent Chicago. If I'm working for you, I represent you. So if I'm an asshole at breakfast, they go, oh my God, I'll never hire that band again. They were so nasty, because I was nasty. So, you know, you have to be the best human being, treat the crew, everybody the bus drivers, be considerate, compassionate, and forgive quickly,
Hmm.
because otherwise you will make it. So, everybody makes mistakes, different kinds, musically, personally, and you just gotta be, without being the leader, help the leader
Mhm.
be successful. And that's why I think that I've been working professionally for 52 years nonstop. And, I'm not going for fame or the fastest drummer or winning contests at Modern Drummer. Um, I never gotten a gig from a magazine interview
Exactly.
uh, or a
No,
podcast,
exactly.
but it helps.
Yeah,
The podcast to me is pass forward information because it was passed on to me. So I have to give back.
that's a back
And
for
when you
sure.
call me for a podcast, the main thing is maybe I can turn some people hip to some things to help them. Or,
Definitely.
yeah, they didn't know this because people help me. And so to be where I am right now is a big paragraph of names, starting with my father,
Mm.
Alex Cunha, Luis Conte, Carlos Vega, Jeff Percaro. I mean, these are people that recommended me, helped me, we work together. And some of the artists too. I learned a lot from Santana. Steve Winwood taught me like many things, encouraged me to write songs,
Mm.
encouraged me to get into recording, so I've been so blessed to have so many people, so many giving people,
Mm.
that I have to tell it like it is. I'm a mixture of a lot of things I borrowed and a lot of things I learned. Steve Gadd, you know, JR, and all the classic drummers. Uh, you know, I don't, I don't. Some of I met and some I didn't meet, but they're in my heart.
Yeah, no,
Carly
exactly.
Barrett with
Yeah,
I mean, like Stuart Copeland would tell you, he owes a lot to Bob Marley and the Wailers,
yeah, for sure, for sure.
all those reggae bands.
Yeah,
They use that as a nucleus of inspiration,
for
and then
sure,
they branched out into some rock and some original stuff.
sure.
But you always learn the best dancers, Baryshnikov and uh, Leonardo Messi and Ronaldo, and the best athletes in the world, tennis players, baseball, have mentors, coaches, and teachers, gymnasts. But why it makes you think that we don't?
Well, I mean, we're drummers, so we want to play with other people, and we want to make people dance. So exactly, yeah, we
You
want to
know,
be part of a gang, if you will.
yeah,
Yeah,
people say, oh, I don't need no teachers. I'm self-taught. Good luck, buddy.
yeah, no, exactly.
It's quicker to learn it from a professional to go from point A to point
Point
B
B.
like this, other than find out. I never, when it comes to like, when I buy something from IKEA and put it together, I'm not self-taught. The instructions, have, that's my teacher right there.
Yeah.
Follow the instructions, because otherwise you'll be there all night and
Yes.
redo it again. Yeah, you'll be self-taught in a week.
Yes.
Good luck.
It'll become a Picasso painting of some sort
Yeah.
if you do it. It'll screw it and
What
whatever.
is this?
It's not in
I'm
the
so
picture.
smart.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Walfredo. I'll stop there because we could go on and on. But thank you so much. I
Well,
personally learned a lot today. So
well,
thank you
thank you. We'll do another one, part
just
B.
for coming back. And again, you can reach Walfredo if you're interested to follow up on Chicago, all the projects, and of course, if you're interested to have lessons with Walfredo on his website. So thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, uh, my love to all my Canadian friends out there. We have many, many, and I can't wait to go back. Are you right now? We're in Montreal. Montreal.
Montreal, yeah, Montreal.
I love Montreal. I,
Yeah.
of course, say hello to Aldo and all the musicians. I love that city. My niece used to live there.
Oh,
I took the whole tourist cultural history. That's what I do too. It's
yeah.
related to music. When I decided to play drums and percussion, I didn't realize that it's so aligned with different people, different cultures, different foods, different dances in different countries. So when I go into a new country, I like to know everything about it, music included, food, everything. And you guys are a winner.
Thank you. We'll do a little bit of a spoon traditional
Oh yeah, I have some.
traditional stuff that we do here. Yeah,
I bought
that
in
we do.
Winnipeg, my first set.
that makes sense because there's a lot of French in Winnipeg actually.
Yeah, Winnipeg Folk Festival.
Nice.
I used to play with David Lindley, and fantastic.
Nice.
So we'll do a part B next time. Okay.
We'll do some spoons next time. Okay. Thank you so much, Walfredo. All the best to you. Take care. Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
There you go, folks. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you, Walfredo, for spending time with us. All the best to you guys. Of course, come back next week for another episode. Until then, all the best to you. Ciao, ciao.